Welcome to Franchise Focus. I am your host, Lisa Lankowski. I am the owner of Milestone Franchising. I am a certified franchise consultant, and today I have in studio with me Bob Molony, who is the principal consultant with Expense Reduction Analysts. And Bob, welcome to Franchise Focus.
Well, thank you very much for having me, Lisa.
Well, I'm very excited to have you here in studio. We've talked on the phone a number of times, and it's great to finally get to meet you in person. So why don't we start off with what is Expense Reduction Analysis, ERA?
Well, ERA is a strategic cost reduction consultancy. We work with businesses to help them find opportunities to reduce their overhead or their fixed expenses, shall we say, and create cash flow. And everything that we're able to produce for them goes right to the bottom line.
Excellent. And Franchise Focus is all about putting a spotlight on the franchise industry. So letting people know, letting our viewership know about these various wonderful concepts that are out there, because everyone, let's face it, thinks about food when they think about franchising, right? So ERA is all about cost analysis, and you're working with what type of companies, what size companies do you look for?
Well, that's a great question. So what I look for are businesses that range between 5 and 250 million. That's probably the sweet spot. But I'm industry agnostic, so I can work with manufacturers, healthcare practices, hospitality, and even professional services like law firms and accounting firms.
Wow, that is very agnostic. That's fantastic. So let's take a step back for a moment. What were you before you became a franchise owner with ERA? Tell me a little bit about your background.
Well, I had a 40-year career in the accounts receivable management industry. So I managed call centers. In the debt collection industry. I worked with business process outsourcing. I did a lot of strategy and workflow processing within the industry, and I mean, I had a lot of fun. I really enjoyed what I was doing, and I found myself in a position last year that I was furloughed with COVID, and I started looking for a job. So as I was looking, I encountered a franchise consultant like yourself. And I looked at a few different opportunities, and ERA just spoke to me. It was the one that I really felt like I could feel at home with, and it's a service that companies need.
I love that. It just spoke to you. I was a former franchise owner myself, and I likened that when I came upon my franchise, that it had just crawled into my brain, and it wouldn't let go. And I thought about it night and day and night, and I just couldn't shake it. I couldn't let go of it. And I said to my husband, if I don't do this, I'm going to regret it for the rest of my life. Did you have that kind of feeling with it, or it just felt really comfortable?
It felt really comfortable. Because of my background, I had done a lot of analysis work, and I'd walked through the process through Discovery Day with a few different groups, and this was, it just seemed to click, and it was something I was familiar with. And as I've gotten more involved with it, it is very similar to things that I have done in the past.
Right, so it resonates with you. Mm-hmm. It's something that you're familiar with, so you don't have to have this big learning curve. Mm-hmm. You get to get right into the seat and take off. You still have to learn because you've got to learn the whole franchise process, but the actual meat of it, mm-hmm. you're familiar with it. Mm-hmm. So were you able to utilize any of your previous contacts in your past corporate life in this, or not at all?
That hasn't really panned out yet, but I expect that it will. The benefit that I've found is that I'm able to leverage the network of over 700 consultants that ERA is able to provide, and the real value comes from those consultants that are specializing in specific cost categories, where I don't have to have the expertise in every single area, and it's a real benefit.
Yeah, it's something that we talk about here on Franchise Focus a lot, which is all about brain trust. That when you enter into a franchise system, that you're not siloed. You're not by yourself like you would be if you were a solo entrepreneur. You have all these other people that are all in this with you together. And in the case of ERA, it's almost, I think, over 800 owners, correct?
Yeah,
Yeah,
it has grown substantially in the past year.
Yeah, so over 800 owners, and, by the way, not limited to the United States, international, correct?
It's absolutely international. The group that I trained with was international. I was exposed to a whole different world, and I got to meet and make friends with people in Finland, Norway, Belgium, Poland. I work pretty frequently with a team, husband and wife team that are in Mexico, and as well as all the folks that I've met in the United States. So it's been really a good adventure so far.
That's fantastic. Yeah, so you've got international breadth. You have, this giant reach across the United States and then beyond, and you get to meet all these different people. And to come back to it, they're all in different walks of life. They're all coming into this with different experience. Mm-hmm. So you don't have to be the expert because you're doing cost analysis. And so you could be doing cost analysis for telecom. You could be doing cost analysis for big pharma. You could be doing cost analysis, for any of these areas, and you don't have to be the expert in that. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, I've actually learned quite a bit just from being exposed to a number of these analysts, and so I've learned about things that are associated with shipping and freight a lot. I was involved with IT very frequently in my past life, and I've learned much more than what I knew before, what I thought I knew. I've learned about food services, and I mean it's endless.
Right, and so you get to say, oh boy, I landed this client. I don't really have, we're faking it until we make it, right? And when you own your own business, you do whatever. Yes, I can take care of that, no problem. So you say, ooh, I don't have as much expertise in that area. So then you reach out to your system and say, hey, who is out there that has experience in food service? And then someone says, I do. And then you join together and they can work with you on that?
That's exactly how it works. And not only do they work with me on the analysis piece, but what's really great about it is that the analyst team, they are able to facilitate the sales process because they offer their expertise to clients, and it really gives us an edge. And enables the client to really understand the depth of expertise that ERA is able to provide.
That is significant. And, it's one of the things that we talk about over and over that, and I can't emphasize it enough, audience, that when you are able to work with other people in the industry and you're doing the same thing and they're doing the same thing, and then you get to all come together and collaborate, makes a huge difference. And you have a convention, we were just mentioning, you have a convention coming up, and that will be your first one in person?
That'll be my first one. I'm really looking forward to it. It's going to be in San Antonio, Texas, and on the Riverwalk, and I'll get them. Well, I've met a number of my colleagues, but to be able to meet them face to face is really going to be a special event.
Right, because you mentioned that you started this last year, so that being 2020, which means that you started this whole business in the pandemic, so you haven't really met anyone in person. It's all been in the virtual space.
Pretty much. I was able to, we did have a regional conference just within the past month, and I was able to meet a handful of folks that are in the Northeast region. And that was really good, but that we only spent a couple of hours. But this will be for 3 days.
Fantastic. So, all right. So you get furloughed from the pandemic, a story that resonates with many because it's still continuing on. It hasn't stopped right now, right? Mm-hmm. So you're furloughed and you are looking for a job. Why franchising? What happened? What was the spark that hit?
Well, that's really a great question. So I spoke with a franchise consultant like yourself.
Okay.
And at first I was skeptical, but the more I talked to him, the more I explored how I could do this, and looking at the different franchise opportunities that were out there. It was something that was affordable. It was something that I was able to do on my own, and it just became more appealing the more and more I learned about it. And I spent last summer, getting set up for it, doing my due diligence, getting my corporation set up, and And I mean, I was really excited when I started off.
I'll bet.
And still am. I still am.
That's fantastic. And again, in the middle of a pandemic, right, you're sitting here and you're doing something like this. And you use the word skeptical. And I'm glad you used that word, because the reason for this show, the reason why I decided to do something like this, is because I often hear about that skepticism. And it baffles me, because franchising has been around for a long time. Employs 8 million people. There's something like 750,000 franchise owners units around the United States. And yet people, I get the little wrinkle of the nose, and I go, wait a second. And then people say, well, is it a pyramid scheme? And I'm like, no, it's franchising. It's franchising. And really the word franchising, sports teams are franchises. They are. The Philadelphia Phillies is a franchise. It's just that this is a different way of business ownership, and that you sit there, someone else came up with this proven system, and they put in their blood, sweat, and tears and equity, and now you get to come along, they hand you the recipe book, and they go, here you go, Bob, this is yours now, you get to run it. But you have to run it according to our rules, and according to our game, and all of that good stuff, and then you're off and running, and you're excited. So that's a great word to be using. This long and this short in the process, so to speak, your first year, which is the most trying time. So talk to me about your business development. What is it that you're doing? Because that's a large part of your responsibility, is getting those clients. What do you do? How are you finding people?
Well, probably the biggest challenge that I had was in my past life I was in operations. So I had a network, but I really didn't work at it. I wasn't building it. So I've had to find ways to get myself out there and do networking, attend networking events. Zoom has been a great benefit, and I've found that even though I'm an introvert by nature, it's actually coming pretty easy. I'm able to, meet new people, have conversations, and really develop relationships. And I have to admit, it has taken me, several months to build on the relationships that I started. Some of them have not necessarily panned out, but I've really met some great people and built some decent relationships along the way that will lead to business.
Absolutely. Well, you and I met through networking. That's how you and I met.
Exactly.
And networking is critical. It's everything. And we have to take a short break. And on the other side of that, I'm going to pick back up with networking, and then we're going to move from there. But first, a word from our sponsors.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. But it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello, that's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
And welcome back to Franchise Focus. I'm your host, Lisa Lankowski, and I have my guest with me, Bob Molony. He is the principal consultant with ERA, Expense Reduction Analysts. And before the break, Bob, we were talking about networking and how critical it is. And I wanted to ask you, though, beside networking, typically the franchise will also provide marketing support. You want to expound upon that?
Yeah, so ERA has a fantastic marketing program. They provide material, they provide graphics and logos and everything that you would need to be able to put yourself out in the marketplace. And they provide a lot of support in terms of how to use it, how to use LinkedIn, how to use puzzle banks, for example, as a marketing tool, and it's really been a benefit.
Website, social media.
Mm-hmm.
So do they develop your website for you, or they show you where to go for that? How does that work?
The website is developed for me, so I have a link for me on the site. They've created my LinkedIn profile that's all branded accordingly with ERA. And then it's up to me to then utilize that, make sure that I'm posting content of value and using that to spread the message.
Right, and so that people know that you exist, that you're out there. So speaking that you're out there, in franchising, there is territories that you're given, and so it's a designated area that the franchisor has, chosen based upon. It could be population, it could be based upon how many businesses are in that area. So talk about what is your territory and what does it encompass?
So my territory is Eastern Pennsylvania and Delaware, that's a huge area. It's a huge area. There's a lot of opportunity there. I was really excited that Delaware was part of it to begin with, because there's a lot of corporate headquarters in Delaware. But it's on a referral basis, I can go outside of that. But there's plenty to do within the Pennsylvania and Delaware area.
Within your area, and what are some of the big counties in Eastern PA so that the audience is familiar?
Bucks, Montgomery, Philadelphia County. I'm trying to think. Lancaster County. I mean,
Okay,
it's
really
pretty broad.
goes out
It's
there.
pretty broad.
Is Reading part?
Reading's
Reading's
part of it. Goes up through Scranton in the east, and there are tons of business. Chester County. It is
It's
really
an enormous area.
It really is.
And do you have other owners that are right next to you that go right up against your territory?
There are other franchisees that are in the same territory that I am.
Okay.
But there's plenty to be had there, so that is not an issue, and the team is very collaborative as well.
Wow, so you have, and there are some franchises that operate like this, where you do have other owners right inside of your area, and you all just work in that area together, and you're all respectful that once you land an account, that it's your account and that's it. And then you also collaborate together with those people?
Well, for example, there's a group of franchisees that are in the Pittsburgh area, and so they're still in Pennsylvania, but they have worked it out. So one focuses on project management, the others are focused on client acquisition, and the one that works in project management also does some analysis work. So and I'm in a position where I can use my previous experience to do some analysis work as well.
Right, you have the analysis piece, so you can slide right into that piece, while others that have their strength can work in that. So fantastic. I love that. So we know what your territory area is. And this is a home-based business. So in franchising, you've got the good old brick and mortar. You have some service-based businesses, chuck in a truck, we like to call it, and then stand in a van. And then you have your home-based business. So this is a home-based, or do you have an actual office, or are you working out of your home?
No, I work out of my home. I've been working from home since 2014.
Okay.
So in my previous life, this was an easy transition, and it enables me to have the freedom to be able to work from home, do some things with my family, and still enjoy the benefits of the business.
Right, you get that flexibility. That's the whole beauty of what's sold and what's told to you about. That, hey, you're not sitting there tied to that corporate desk, that you go, hey, I've got to go do something at 1 o'clock, and I'm going to go do it, and that's it. No one's looking around and telling you that you can't. Now with ERA, do you have employees? Do you work up to a point where you ever have employees?
Well, that is my goal. I am just working by myself, but my goal is to add to my team. I would like to add probably someone in the analytical field to help, maybe even some clerical staff. But I still have a long way to go before I get there.
Right. Yeah. You're just at the beginning of this. Okay. So we know where you're located. We know what's happening there. We know the size of companies that you like to work with. You're home-based. What are some other things that you want to talk about? You do improved cash flow. Talk about that.
Well, what we are able to do is really provide our clients with a different lens to look at their expenses. So most businesses are very focused on their core products and services. They measure their sales. They pay close attention to their clients, but not necessarily such a focus on their expenses. And where we're really able to make a difference is on those expenses that are outside of their core and what I'll call the tail. And it represents probably 80% of their suppliers, only 20% of their expenses, but 20% of a $100 million company's expenses is a significant number.
Okay. Interesting. And so they're not paying attention to that. You come in and you lift up all the rocks and you're going, hey, these are some areas that you need to start paying attention to.
Exactly. And where we're able to provide benefit is that we have expertise in areas that they don't. That they don't, right. And we're able to leverage that. I spoke to a gentleman that's involved with he does turnarounds, and he was asking me if I was able to scale. So if he had multiple projects going on, and there is no reason why I can't, because I'm able to leverage the network and use analysts that can cover just about anything.
That are to your avail. And ERA, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think they cover something like 60 categories. When we talk about telecom, and we talk about shipping, and we talk about all the different logistics, freight, they cover, I think it's something like 50 or 60 different areas.
It's close to that. I mean, it encompasses medical supplies, office supplies, office equipment.
Artificial intelligence, I think, is one of them, or no? Not yet.
I'm not sure that. Well, artificial intelligence is something that is actually on the threshold, I want to say, because we're able to provide some analysis tools that help clients to actually visualize, where their opportunities to save might be, and that is something that's coming down the pike.
That is wonderful. So you give also industry insight at the same time. So you're doing this improved cash flow. You're finding these areas of expense reduction where they can cut expenses so that they can then help their bottom line. And then industry insight. How does that work?
Well, because the analytical team has C-suite experience in their background, they're able to really dig in and provide expertise that clients maybe didn't realize. They're able to focus. So when working on a project, our analysts have a vested interest in getting the best results for their client, because that's how they're going to be compensated as well. So and it's important to them to make sure that they get the best results possible. I spoke with at that conference, at the regional conference that I mentioned before. I spoke with an analyst that focuses on shipping and freight, and he described how he, through an engagement with a client, actually went to market 15 times over a 24-month period in order to make sure that client got the best pricing for their shipping and freight.
Wow. So this has all been incredible, and it all sounds so easy. And I do not want to lure my audience into thinking that business ownership is easy. So please, Bob, share with me what have been some of the more challenging aspects of becoming a business owner.
It is not easy. The challenging aspects are that you have to wear every hat. So you've got to be you're responsible for accounting, you're responsible for marketing, you're responsible for business development. You've got to clean. You've got to clean, and it's not all a cakewalk, that's for sure. But I can assure you that it is a lot of fun.
It's very rewarding. At the end of the day, it's very rewarding, and the headaches and the up and down, because it's an up and down. One day you're looking at your family going, what did I do? And then the next day you're like, everything is great. And it kind of keeps on going up and down like that. But at the end of it, the flexibility, the ability to be your own boss and call your own shots and make this all your thing, so beneficial.
It speaks volumes in terms of how it makes you feel. And my both of my grandparents, my grandfathers, I should say, were in business for themselves. So I guess in the back of my mind, I always aspired to do something like that. And this is giving me the opportunity to do that, being in business by myself, but or should say for myself, but not by myself.
Right. Well, on that note, we have run out of time for our wonderful time and experience together. And now you've learned everything that you could want to know about expense reduction analysis. And we're going to put up Bob's contact information for you so that you get to have all of his information for reaching out to him and, hopefully going and talking to him about how he can help you to cut your expenses. So this has been fantastic. I thank you so much for joining the show today. It's been a great time, and I wish you continued success and have a wonderful time at that convention. In the meantime, I'm Lisa Lankowski. I am the host of Franchise Focus. I'm also the owner of Milestone Franchising. You can find out all about me and what it is that I do as a certified franchise consultant at my website. And Franchise Focus runs every week, Friday at 1 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. We thank you for tuning in.